All right, it is now 3 o'clock. I'm going to start the recording for Master Anish's Guild's Q&A. And I'm going to share this slide with her. This is, oops, not share, present. This is Master Anij Kalish, Belegarth Guild's questions and answers. She is here to tell us all that she knows. Am I not sharing?
I am not seeing that, no.
Let me do that again. Now we have Master Anish's class, Belegarth Guild's questions and answers. It will go until 4 o'clock in 1 hour. If it goes long, you are welcome to join her in the Chaos Wars Discord. Or find her on Facebook, I'm sure. Go ahead, Master Anish.
Okay, so basically I just wanted to have a time where we could, I could give a brief introduction.
I'm going to finish the bag.
Alina, I think you're on the same Zoom that we're on because it's all one link today.
And I don't know if anybody's here.
I don't know if you can hear me. Sven, can you help us out?
You're still in the first Zoom.
There we go. Okay, so basically I just wanted to do a brief introduction to what the guilds are, what their purpose is, what you can do with them, and kind of when they started, how many members we have, stuff like that. And then just open up the floor to people who have questions about them. As they have developed since about 2013, 2014, when they were first established, there's been a lot of progress, but there's also been some confusion and people misunderstanding, how they work, stuff like that. So I just wanted to give a chance to help dispel some of those. So as a quick overview, the Artificer and Seneschal guilds were created around end of 2013, beginning of 14, when they were actually launched. And the guilds, the idea behind the guilds is that it was to provide a place for collaboration for the arts and sciences and running events and recording, eventually with the Chronicler Guild joining us here in 2017, recording Belegarth history and lore and stuff like that. Basically a starting place for all of that to start to be collected and collaborated and encouraged. And so then the other part of this was to make it so that there was a path to a peerage similar to knighthood for those who were focusing in the arts, garb making, armor making, sword making, stuff like that. Service, so running events, running realms, that side of our sport. And then eventually Chronicler, which is doing the recording of our sport, basically the preservation of our history, whether that is keeping track of peerage lists, whether that's keeping track of the lore that gets created, whether that's creating lore, all of those different aspects. So basically there was a pretty giant vacuum in regards to supporting the people that weren't necessarily fighting. Is the guilds just for those who don't fight? No, it's for everyone in the sport. It is for people who don't want to fight. It's for people who fight but have other interests as well. It's for people who fought but maybe they're just getting a little bit too sore and injuries or whatever, such that fighting on the field isn't their main thing anymore. And so there's plenty of other opportunities. So basically, we just wanted to look at our sister sports. Dagger here doesn't really have it yet, but they do have some arts and sciences. It's just not necessarily a special thing for them. Amtgard has special knighthoods for it. The SCA has special peerages for it. So we just kind of look to them and be like, okay, how do you guys do this? How can we adjust it to be uniquely Belegarth and fit what we need? So currently the different guild groups, I just checked, we have 736 members in the Facebook group for the Artificer Guild, 205 in the Facebook group for the Seneschal Guild, and 110 over in the Chronicler Guild's Facebook page. I didn't write these down, so I'm going to go grab the numbers here real quick, but we have currently have 10 Artificer mentors or masters, of which 6 are masters. We have quite a few apprentices, vassals, journeymen right now, and a whole bunch of just members. So that's over in the Artificer Guild. And then over in the Seneschal Guild, we currently have 7 mentors or masters there. We only have 4 masters over on the Seneschal Guild, so the rest are mentors. And then we have quite a few apprentices, journeymen, stuff like that. You can check all of these. I try to keep them current, but you can check all of these over on the Get In page for the guilds. I'm going to go ahead and link the general guilds page here for you guys. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's links to the different ranks. There's links to the different guilds, sub guilds, I should say, and then there's a link to the guild library as well, all within this page. So let me get that for you guys here. So that's just kind of a brief overview. One big question that we get a lot is, can you be a part of the guild and not pursue peerage? And yes, you can totally do that. All that you need to do to be a part of the guild is to join the Facebook group, if possible. Say, hey, I'm here, I want to learn, this is what I do. And we're like, sweet, come join us. And then, you know, if possible, if you know how to adjust the wiki, you can put your name under the guild for that you're joining on the get-in. If you don't, feel free to message, you know, myself, Antoinette, Lady Armstrong, any of the mentors or masters, you know, that are listed on any of the pages, and be like, hey, can you help me get this done? Can you help me get my name added? And you know, they will either know, or they'll know of someone who can. Or yeah, I'm sorry, can you tell me how to pronounce your name? I've only seen it written. Gala? Gala? Gala. Okay, Galia. Okay. Yeah, so Galia can help you with that too. There's quite a few of us that help out on the get-in pages, so a lot of us have learned how to adjust those and add things to them. So that's about what I had in regards to an overview. Does anybody have any questions at this point in regards to wonderings you've had about the guilds, curiosities about its history, wonderings how it got started, future plans, anything like that?
to sneak out for a couple of minutes, did you talk about how you obtain peerage through the guild, what that process looks like?
Yeah, I can go over that. So if you do want to obtain peerage through the guild, the process for that is the first step is to submit an application, and the links to those applications are in each of the different guild pages for on the Geddon. They should also be on all of the Facebook public pages as well, pinned to the top. And once that application comes in, what we do is we look to see whether you listed a preferred person, whether there's someone in your field that is close by you. Kind of try and get a feel as to whether you're okay with a more distance type relationship or whether you really need someone local. And all of those factors kind of go together as we're trying to match you up with someone. It's a little bit more bureaucratic than just, the way that knighthood happens, where either a knight takes notice of you or you go ask a knight. It can happen that way too. So, like, if you know someone, if you know a mentor or a master in your area, and you're like, I really want to learn under them, you can always go talk to them and ask them about that. And if they have an opening, then that can definitely be arranged that way. You still have to fill out an application, but then at that point, the mentor or master just reaches out to the person who arranges everything and says, hey, this person approached me. Can we get this to be a thing? And that's totally cool. If you don't know anyone, that's why we have the process of looking at the applications and matching people up, because sometimes there's no one local to you. Sometimes you're new and you don't really know people. And yeah, as Sven just noted, like, sometimes we won't have a master for what you're wanting to learn, or we won't have a master or a mentor that has a spot yet for what you're wanting to learn. And so that's where sometimes we make matches where it's like, okay, well, they don't know that specific skill, but they can get you in contact with maybe people in the sport who do, that maybe aren't in the guild yet, so that we can kind of do some group learning kind of, and make sure that you get connected with the person you need to in order to learn the skill that you want. And at that point, then the mentor or master is just kind of overseeing you learning that skill and directing that and making sure that you learn it to the point that, and beyond, that will be considered master level work. And also so that they can working on those other things that come with peerage, right? So there's mastery of the skill, but there's also the things that I'm trying to remember a name for them. They're called peer-like qualities amongst the peerages, but basically, are you an honorable person? Are you an honest person? Are you someone who can take direction? Are you someone who can give instruction? Are you someone who can give instruction that's creative? What's it called? When feedback is not just negative, it's constructive criticism. There we go. Are you able to do these things in such a way that you will help grow the sport? Because the thing, when embarking on this, the biggest thing to remember when becoming a peer is it's a job. It's a job description. Yes, it's a recognition, but you're not finished when you reach masterhood. It's only the beginning. That's making sure that you have the training and the background so that you'll be able to then go forward and train others and to bring others into the sport who might be interested in these fields. So if you're not really interested in teaching other people, if you just kind of want to do your own thing, if you're not interested in having students sometime in the future, maybe peerage isn't for you, and that's okay. But if you really like teaching people, if you really like sharing what you do, if you want to have students someday, like, this is a great spot for you. So yeah, so going back to the process, put in an application to be an apprentice. Sometimes if so we have limits on how many students a mentor or a master can take on. We do this to try and make sure that all the students they do have get proper attention and direction and stuff like that. So sometimes if they're full up on apprentices or apprentice and journeyman, sometimes, or if one of their students has progressed to be a journeyman and is ready to take on a kind of a trial student of their own, we did create the rank of vassal, which is a little bit less commitment than an apprentice. You're kind of starting it out, you're feeling it out. You might get a few tasks. It's going to be much more relaxed, depending on the person you're vassaling under. And it's a way to kind of get in the queue a little more, get a relationship starting to be established with someone, repertoire, kind of get a better feel for what this is, without necessarily the full apprenticeship. So that's sometimes an option that's presented to people. Elena, who's now my journeyman, she started out as my vassal when I was a journeyman myself. So then when I became a master, she became my full apprentice, and I've since taken on 2 more apprentices. So that's the first level. After at least a year, sometimes more, but not less than, after at least a year of being an apprentice, then you can go and be a journeyman. And that process is you put together a portfolio of the work that you've done, and you submit it through your mentor or master. You submit it to the guild council, and then the guild council looks it over, says, yep, looks like they're making good progress, we're hearing good things, cool, everybody votes, and then you get to be a journeyman. Occasionally, if we get someone who is has been doing this a while, they're not quite ready to be a master, but they're definitely farther along than a journeyman, or not a journeyman, sorry, farther along than an apprentice. Occasionally we'll have a mentor or master take someone on and they'll go straight to journeyman. That's fairly rare, but because the guilds is really something that should have been part of Belegarth all along, there's definitely some catch up that we're having to do here to best recognize where people are actually at. So then so you become a journeyman. Again, it's another year. Could be more than, but not less than. And you just keep working on tasks. There are specific goalposts that you have to reach with each level. So to go from apprentice to journeyman, you have to have done these certain things, depending on your guild, and depending on your mentor or master's requirements. So the guild has its requirements, and then each mentor and master, depending on what they want to see specifically, what their skill is, etc. They might have specific requirements, so that you have to talk to your person about. So yeah, once you finish all of the journeyman qualifications, you then submit another portfolio, and in that is also normally some classes. Most of the guilds require that you've taught a few classes, stuff like that. I know with the Artificer Guild, you have to have done some tutorials as well. Again, we're looking for that teaching ability. We're looking for that teaching desire, because we're really at the point where we need to have more mentors and masters to grow the guilds. So, we would love to be able to just say, oh yeah, they make awesome stuff, but they're not going to teach anyone. We'll give you it. But that's not really what it's for at this point. It's really for to recognize the teachers and people that are looking forward to taking students going forward. So yeah, there's the journeyman portfolio and tutorials and stuff that you submit then, and that gets voted on. It's normally a little bit more scrutinized because at this point, you're in that final rung of the competition, so to speak. So, it's a little bit more, people are a little bit more like, okay, did they do each and everything? Like, is it looking good? Are they finished? Do they need some more time? How's those pure light qualities looking? Stuff like that. And then at that point, um, if you get a yes vote from majority of the council, then you become a master. And like I said, at that point, your journey is not done because you're still learning, you're still growing, you're at that point taking on students officially, and the hope is that you're either um, your teaching classes. If you're in the Artificer Guild, the hope is that you're starting to spread more arts and sciences competitions. You're helping with judging. You're, doing these things to help breathe life into these activities. And then the other path that you can take to become a master is there is an application for it directly to master. That one again is scrutinized a little bit harder. We're currently working on making the requirements for the two paths to be a little bit more equal, because right now they were kind of written with different goals in mind. So we're working on that. Master Sita is heading up that project. But basically, there's an application. You can apply to be a master right away. It does require currently, I'm trying to remember how many years you have to have been in Belegarth. Checking the guild pages here to make sure I'm giving you guys the right answer.
I believe it's 8 because I'm like 3 years too young.
Yeah, it is 8. Yep. And there's been some discussion as to, whether this path is going to stay permanently as an option. The guilds were started in 2013, 2014, so we're getting really close to, in another 2 years here, we're getting really close to that point where anybody who's been in the sport 8 years has been in the sport while the guilds were around, so we're not sure. We're guessing there's still some people out there that haven't taken advantage of this yet, may not know about it yet, stuff like that. We don't want to leave anyone behind, obviously, and we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to do it if that's what their calling is, so to speak. But it is definitely an added complication, when we get applications of, okay, did this person come up through the guild, or are they doing an immediate recognition? How does this, which list are we looking at here? So there's just some bureaucracy that we have to try and smooth out as we're working on these. Any questions about that process?
What do you do? I know we've had some instances where apprentices or journeymen have had to switch mentors.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like?
So sometimes either a match just isn't working out, which it can happen. It's because our process is a little bit different than knighthood. I mean, it happens with knighthood too, but because our process is a little bit different than knighthood, a little bit more. There's the matchmaker involved. Sometimes matches don't work out, and that is totally fine. No hurt feelings on any of the people who arranged its part. Just let us know. You don't even, if you don't feel comfortable for some reason approaching your mentor or master about it, you can totally reach out to somebody else and just be like, hey, this isn't working, I need somebody else. Totally fine. We will find you someone else. Don't feel like you should just go quiet or anything like that. Please get in contact with myself, especially if possible, because I'm one of the people that help arrange everything. Someone you trust in the guilds, and just be like, hey, I need a different mentor. It's happened. It can, it's totally fine. It's not a problem. We'll try and find someone else who can take you. You're kind of end up going kind of back on the waiting list a little bit, but we will definitely try and get you started again. Maybe somebody can take you on as a vassal or something to keep you going, even if they don't have room for a full apprentice. We'll figure something out. In regards to, let's say, your mentor just disappears. It's happened. We try and make sure that, mentors and masters understand that, they're taking on responsibility, and students and stuff like that. But people's lives happen. Real life comes before Belegarth. So, if you can't get in contact with your mentor for some reason, reach out to one of us, myself, Antoinette, Lady Armstrong, etc. Be like, hey, I haven't heard from them in months. I can't, I reach out, they don't tell me, they don't say anything. I never see them online. Whatever it is. We'll try and get in contact with them. We'll try and find out what's going on. And, if they're just not able to continue teaching at this time, then we'll find a way to help you continue your journey with someone else. So we wanted to make sure that there would hopefully never be a situation where anyone gets stranded. So sometimes we've seen in knighthood and some of the other peerages where the knight retires or leaves the sport for some reason, and suddenly all of their squires, all their pages, all of their students are suddenly like, what do we do now? And so the hope is that if that happens, reach out to us, reach out to the guilds. We have guild emails. You can reach out to any of us, people that are listed on the mentor or master pages. And so I will answer that in just a second. Reach out to us and we will get it figured out. There is a organizational system in place to support you. So please don't feel like just because maybe your mentor disappeared that you're out of the program or anything. Like, we'll get you settled again. So in regards to Galia's question about is there a difference between mentors and masters? So this is because the guilds just started in 2014, and we are slowly working on replacing mentors with masters. They are considered of equal rank, but mentors are generally people who have not achieved masterhood yet. When the guilds were started up, because we needed more people to start it up than who we could immediately master. There were people, normally knights, but occasionally not, that had experience and skill in those areas that we were looking for, and a desire to teach and help get this started, and so they were asked to be mentors. Occasionally, as time's gone on, and we've had a whole bunch of leather workers come in or something like that, we'll go and we'll search out for some new mentors to just kind of help with the backlog. And so that's why mentors are a thing. We are trying to, as the mentors bring up and promote masters, the idea is that slowly our councils will be just have masters in them, and that everybody who is taking students, apprentice or above, are masters. But really, how quickly we can do that depends on students' journeys and their lives and stuff like that. So, you know, it really, it's a process. So, the hope eventually is to only have masters in the councils, but for now, we're still working with some mentors, and we really appreciate them taking time out of their lives to help in this extra way. So, so Anya was wondering, what do you feel, or what have you heard the community needs from the Seneschal or Chronicle guilds? I haven't heard a whole lot. The Seneschal and the Chronicler guilds are a little bit more challenging, because with the Artificer Guild, part of the reason why we have so many members and stuff like that is everybody loves to share things they've made. And so that is a fairly easy to determine and straightforward way of growth, right? With the Seneschal Guild, what we really need people to do in regards to what would help the organization grow is for people in the Seneschal Guild to share things they've learned while running trolls, share things they've learned while teaching classes and organizing classes, share these experiences that come from events, whether they're in person or online, and really start these discussions of what works best. Here's a worksheet I did. Here's a Google form I used. Like, all of these super cool ways we have of organizing our sport and running it that can kind of end up getting restricted by region, because there's not a whole lot of sharing going on necessarily. The Seneschal pages tend to be super quiet. So if we could get more of that going, that would be great. In regards to what does the organization need from the community, in regards to what the community needs from, say, the Seneschal or the Chronicler Guild, I'm not sure. No one has really told us. And finding out what those are, we're open to ideas onto how to get that information. In regards to the Chronicler Guild, it was kind of things that didn't fit under the Artificer or Seneschal Guild, and so after much discussion, they got their own. And so, that is lore, recording via video, photography, history of the sport, stuff like that. And again, like, that is going to be up to people sharing what they've collected so far, sharing it only officially, the Chronicler public page was started in 2017. So it's pretty new still. It's pretty young, and really, like, the people who manage it, us people on the councils and stuff, we can try and infuse energy and no, not yet. There's mentors, but there are no Chronicler Masters yet. I think there's a few of our mentors who are going to be working on the immediate recognition form application for that, but there aren't any Chronicler Masters yet. So, But yeah, the more people can get on the public page and stuff and share their lore, share their stories, share photo albums, share histories they've collected from talking to our old fighters, you know, research projects, stuff like that. Like, that would be great. But it's really hard for us to grow it when there's no participation or there's very little participation. So the more participation that anyone can bring to that, the more life will be breathed into these. So any other questions that people have thought of here?
So how does voting work for apprentice or journeyman and advancement?
So, like, in regards to how does the voting work for progressing through the ranks?
Sure.
Okay. So, basically, I kind of touched on it earlier, but when an application for whether it's and I'm going to say application and portfolio kind of intermittently here, but when a portfolio is submitted to either go up in rank or become a master, um, the portfolio, any supporting documentation, stuff like that is all posted in a council page that we have that is super secret. And then normally we try to give the masters anywhere between a week and 2 to 3 weeks. It kind of depends on how busy everyone is, to go through it, see what their impression is, ask any questions they might have, allow the applicant to provide any more documentation and if they're missing anything, stuff like that. And then the vote is just kind of gradually given as people have time to review the documents. And trying to remember if there is an actual, like, this many people have to vote yes.
Like a quorum.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's all written down, so I don't have to remember. In general, we haven't had a divisive enough vote that we have to go back and say, okay, how many people do we actually need to say yes in order for this to pass? So I'm not necessarily familiar with exactly how many people have to say yes. Occasionally, due to, people having busy lives and stuff like that, occasionally we'll have votes where not all of the council members chime in. But we try and get, a majority of them to.
I know
Also,
that
go ahead.
when my apprentice application went through to go to journeyman, I had 8 out of 10 votes. 10 or 2 of them failed to vote within the time period or abstained.
Yeah. And that is unfortunately a little bit more common than we like, but again, as we get more excited, active participants in our council, the more likely that we'll get more voter participation. It's like any voting participation, So let's see. So yeah, and then once a consensus has been reached, if there's enough votes yes, then we let the person know, hey, you're able to go on to being a journeyman, or hey, congratulations, you're a master now. We normally try and you know uh, publicize those results as far and wide as we can to help bring awareness and transparency. We post, normally we try and get the portfolios from apprentice to journeyman. If if they do then go to journeyman, we post those portfolios in the guild library for either immediate master recognition or journeyman to master. If those are approved, then those get posted in the guild library. Again, for that openness and transparency, hey, this is what this person did to reach this. I'm hoping to add to the guild library also the personal lists that different masters and mentors have. So not only what is put out on the guild pages in regards to, okay, these people have to have done these things, but then what do the individual mentors and masters require their particular students to have done. And that's going to vary, between each person. And that's okay, and that's actually encouraged, because similar to knighthood, each teaching person is going to have what they consider to be required. And so that helps bring diversity and excellence to our guilds. So that will always be a thing. And then let's see, once you go from an apprentice to a journeyman, you're added to the council pages. You don't get to vote, but you're able to participate in discussions that come up if there's any policy changes, stuff like that. And you're able to observe how the voting does happen, so that hopefully by the time you become a master, you have an understanding of how that works and stuff. And then once you become a master, you're added to another secret group that we have that's called the guild administration page, and all the masters and current mentors are part of that. And that's kind of where guild-wide decisions and stuff like that get made. So did that answer your question, Elena?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the councils currently have masters and mentors. Again, as masters replace mentors, eventually the main councils will be just masters. There is technically a provision in our I don't know if bylaws is quite the right word, but there's a provision in our system where local councils can be made, and those apparently can have journeymen on those councils. I know Master Sita was looking into that, establishing the first one of those, but it hasn't happened yet. So. Any other questions here in our last 15 minutes? I guess one question I have for you guys here is, do you, if you have leanings towards the Seneschal or Chronicler Guild, what are things that we can do to help encourage your growth and ability to pursue those.
I am interested in both. I don't know if I'm immediately interested. I feel like I shouldn't overload myself, which is
Fair.
just how do you not do that? I don't know, but I think just and this is probably something that I'm gonna do now, and when we get back into eventing and stuff, is asking people what they want to see from the guilds and figure out what I can do that will be of benefit to the community. So I guess just poking around and saying, hey, what do you need? What do you want? What do you see from this thing?
Yeah. Do you think, like, this is kind of a similar like issue that they ran into in regards to trying to find out about you know, BIPOC concerns and stuff in the sport as a whole, is how to get those concerns, how to get those comments, how to collect those, how to look at them, how to see what we can actually do to help. And so I guess one question would be, would a Google form going out being like, how can the guilds help you? Do you think that would be effective at all? Or is it more a personal conversation, that people are just going to have at events and stuff?
I think
go ahead.
some people might I think some people might use it. It would be a cool idea to have a Belegarth suggestion box.
I had one comment to go along with Anya's, like, if there was like a Google form out there that had like class requests for large events, like nationwide events like Chaos Wars or Bifter, like, hey, can you ask anyone in the guilds if they'd be willing to teach a class on XYZ, and see if any of our mentors or journeymen or masters are knowledgeable enough to teach something like that.
So rather than just, oh, what classes do you want to teach, it's what classes do you want to be taught?
Just the ability to, like, for the community to be like, hey, I'm interested in this thing. Do we have any mentors or masters out there that, or someone out there that can teach this topic at XYZ event?
I think a good part of the success of the Artificer Guild is the visibility. Like Brother Maynard mentioned, the way, wow, what are you working on Wednesday?
Right.
Yeah. Gives it a good like critical mass, I guess, kind of.
Oh, go ahead.
People can stay motivated by seeing other people's stuff, see who's knowledgeable with what craft, maybe ask questions on there. I know there's a couple of people that have mentioned and have said in the Chroniclers Guild that they are working on or wanting to put up a YouTube or a song collection or stuff like that, but hasn't happened publicly, really. And I'm on that page, so I would have seen it if it happened.
Yeah.
Public visibility.
Yeah. Galia mentioned a concept of quantifying lore. So that would be a little bit more of a question for our lore people in the Chronicler Guild, which is currently Cord and let me grab one other person here. Who we got here? Lord. Yeah, so Cord, Witch Doctor Kazi, and I'm gonna slaughter his name, but Kaleda, I think that's how it's pronounced. So there are our lore people right now. They went through and had several discussions on how to quantify lore in regards to getting a peerage in it. So I'm not sure exactly what they fully decided on. They each, had their own qualifications for their own students. But in regards to what the general rankings are, we got those up. So for chroniclers, it's pretty similar to the other ones. Let me see if Journeyman has anything for more specific. Demonstrate overall improvement in the quality of the chosen emphasis. So making better lore in regards to lore, complete a sizable project in direct service to a realm or the Belegarth Medieval Combat Society. So, maybe that is, if it's direct service to a realm, maybe that is collecting and helping create a cohesive lore story for your realm. If it's for the Belegarth Medieval Combat Society, maybe that's creating or adding to a race and doing all of the lore and research and stuff that comes with making a race a successful thing in Belegarth. So that one, that one could take a few years. It's complete a difficult project approved by the Chroniclers Council. It obviously is a new field. So quantifying what counts and what the council is going to be looking for is going to be a process. You can, by either applying to be a master or by going through the apprenticeship program, you can help establish what the qualifications are. You can help, as the first wave or two of the apprentice guild, we were helping to set the bar by which future applicants will be judged. And in the SCA, what ends up happening is that bar just kind of keeps going up. We're hopefully going to make sure that it's not going to get unobtainable, because that's where the SCA is now. But we don't necessarily know where our bar is until people are working on achieving it, and then we can kind of go, okay, yes, that is notable, that is what we're looking for, or well, that's not quite meeting it yet. I've seen some other things that's a little bit better. Why don't we try and work on that to get that to that level? So where's the bar right now? We don't necessarily know. That's going to have to be established as we get students and as we get applicants. So. Any other last minute questions here in our last 8 minutes?
Seeing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.
I think we're good.
And then in 6 minutes, we will have Master Sven coming on for his mead making 1 to 100 class.
And if anyone has any questions, feel free to